whether you look at it as the most difficult task, the most important task, but just get the top thing done that's, will yield the greatest results. Because as you've pointed out, once you do that at the start of your day, the rest of it is like sailing, easy. Back to your domino analogy, you will actually be better. You'll actually function better. So those tasks, all those little ones after that, you'll knock them out a lot quicker. So you'll be more efficient throughout the day.
San Diego 911 emergency. You need to come right away. There's a man with a gun and it's loaded. Receiving emergency signal from 4
George, 1141. We got a white female down. We need paramedics code please.
all available units. Roll code that way.
Welcome to the De-Escalation Conversations podcast. This week, we have a friend of mine. We have a special friend of mine. Not the special like a short yellow bus, but special like as in super, super talented. And I want to tell you about Sam Tornatore. Sam is an accomplished author. He's a leading expert in the field of beating procrastination and in increasing productivity. He has a 19-year track record of helping over 10,000, yeah, you heard that, 10K, 10,000 people and businesses break free from the constraints of feeling like they never have enough time or being paralyzed by procrastination. I got to tell you, Sam, I have felt both of those things at different points in my life and sometimes a lot of my life. Well, Sam, what he does is he helps overwhelmed business owners who have an endless to-do list to be able to optimize their focus, stop worrying about when they'll find time to do tasks, and take back control of their time and productivity. Now, you might be listening to this or watching this on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you're consuming it, almost like a meal. And you might be thinking, well, wait a second, this is de-escalation stuff. Kerry normally has like school teachers and firefighters and cops and medics and flight attendants, but he has this business consultant with him today. Yes, here's why. And you're going to see the through line if you haven't already when we talk about overwhelm and procrastination and lack of productivity and having a big to-do list and being just frustrated. All of those things that I listed off. If you've been listening to me for more than about 7.5 seconds, you know that I'll tell you those are all negative things. And when you're having those negative feelings, those negative emotions, those negative experiences, that means you're in survival state. That's not where we want to be. We want to be in executive state. The only two states that your brain can be in. So what Sam does is he helps keep us in executive state. And why is that important for de-escalation? Well, again, you probably already see the through line on this one. How we show up to an emotionally charged situation. It makes all the difference. If we're overwhelmed, if we're buried and can't seem to find our way out, we feel like we have no time to do the things that we want to do, to spend time with the people we want to spend time with, well, that means we're in survival state. And that means we're operating in our hindbrain, our PFC, the prefrontal cortex. It's shut off. And that means we are not going to be creative. We are not going to be able to do good problem solving. We're going to be reacting, not responding. And it probably means we're going to be sent straight to an amygdala hijack. We'll end up apologizing because we have to, or feeling bad or guilty about how we acted, or just maybe even getting in trouble at work, or maybe screwing up a relationship. Maybe it's that final straw for that relationship. And maybe it's just not a relationship. Maybe you're just treating somebody like crap at the grocery store or in a parking lot. Either way, what Sam Tornatore does is he helps people not react badly in emotionally charged situations by helping them in all these other ways. So Sam, with that big long intro, because you are such an amazing guy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kerry. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Excuse me. It's an honor to be here on your show. And I'm just going to really look forward to adding whatever value I can create. And, you know, it's so true. Everything you said is just on point. we are just not at our best when we're stressed, we're overwhelmed, our brain just doesn't cope. And we're not in that state. We know we make bad decisions. We don't think properly. And, and we pay the price afterwards. We think, oh man, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Well, because it's not about you. It's just that you are so overwhelmed. It's just like a whole bunch of noise going on. And if you can't filter that out, if you can't quieten your mind, you're just not going to function at your best. And so well said. You said it so poetically. And that's what we've all got to be aware of all the time.
Thank you for that. And I totally agree with you. As I like 99.9% of the time, you open your mouth and you're like, oh no. So Sam's in Australia. You're in I always get it mixed up. Are you in Brisbane or Melbourne? Brisbane. Okay. You're in Brisbane, yeah. Which all the Americans call it Brisbane, which probably
Brisbane.
Brisbane. It probably annoys the daylights out of you guys. But I learned from you, it's Brisbane.
Yeah.
And so we're on totally different time zones. We're on like, it's tomorrow for you, first of all. So before we leave, I want the winning lottery numbers. Because theoretically you would have those, but every time that we talk, it's so cool that you and I can be literally on polar opposite ends of the world, and well, almost, and be in such different physical places, but you and I on mental and emotional places consistently connect and have been for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And so as we go through this, I'm curious. You know what? I'm just going to be selfish. I'm going to make it about me.
Okay.
Because I can, as the co-host of the show, and Diane's not around today, so otherwise I'd make it about her, but I'm going to make it about me. All right. So let's say I have this big to-do list.
Yep.
And I could leading a nonprofit, teaching all the different sectors that we do with K through 12 schools and police and fire and medical services and flight attendants and quite honestly, the business owners that come to us and say, hey, I want to increase my sales. And I understand what you're doing could actually help me do that, which is totally true. But we don't even market to those people. They still come and find us. With all this stuff going on, I could have a to-do list that will just fill page after page after page. So when somebody is like me and they have a lot of different things going on, how do you help them navigate through that?
Look, that's a great question. And it's the big question that always someone, that's really what it comes down to. We all got things to do. And about filtering those to identify the ones that are the most important things is the key. Now, it's simply easier said than done, but there are a couple of key strategies, Kerry, that are really simple to implement, and it's a starting point I recommend for everybody. Doesn't matter how big your to-do list is. Now, but let me just start by just emphasizing a couple of things. Everyone says, I want more time, okay? But the reality of it is, and everybody knows this, we only have 24 hours. Now, you, me, Donald Trump, Mother Teresa, whoever it is, they only have 24 hours. So forget about trying to find more time. What you've got to do is work out the best use of your time, the best allocation of that 24 hours. And that's what this whole area of productivity is all about. Now, and often in the work I do with my private clients, I mean, sometimes I get results that really even blow me away. And I think, gee, that's pretty impressive how they were able to achieve that. And one of the keys, Kerry, is that I am able to see things from an outside perspective that people can't see. So we get caught up in our own excuses, in our own world, and we get, like you said, we get caught up in everything, and we just get, fixated on something, and we're not able to see beyond that. So having a 360 view enables me to do that. So I have this saying that I love saying to people, I reveal opportunities that are hidden in plain sight.
I love that. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, because I really believe that, an independent person, and that, I say this to myself, I mean, I have coaches and I have mentors, and they often say things to me, and I think, man, how did I not know that? I teach people this every day, and you just, brought it to my attention. So anyway, just wanted to start with that. So the key is to look at that list, what you have, and work out a couple of things. And the first thing is to say to yourself, what is the most important thing to do on that list, right? What is the most important thing? Now, most important is usually measured in terms of consequences, right? So what will have the biggest impact if you don't do it? Or what will have the biggest gain if you do it? Somewhere in that list, Kerry, is some things that are the most important thing to do. Now, when we don't do that most important thing, that's when we get that beat ourselves up feeling. We know we should have done it. We should have done it. We know that our income was dependent on it. We know that that opportunity was really red hot, and we didn't follow through. We didn't allow space to do that, and we beat ourselves up. So does that make sense so far?
It totally does. And I'm going to relate it back to when I was a detective working general investigations. In general investigations, we handled crimes against property and crimes against people. And this is probably 25 years ago. I was a relatively new detective, and case management, the to-do list, prioritizing things it makes you or breaks you as a detective. I was a brand new detective, and I didn't go after a suspect. I was pretty darn sure who the suspect was.
Mm.
And I wanted to be able to try and interview him, see if we could get a statement. And the son of a guy, and I did something else first. And then when I went to look for the suspect, he was in Mexico. Gone.
Yeah.
You want to talk? I mean, in the business world, that's the equivalent of a sale that's ready to be made going away, and they go to another provider of services. They find another coach. They find another productivity expert. And the crazy thing is this. God, I just realized there's a huge parallel here. Life in Mexico, with rare exception, is generally not as good as life in the United States.
Yep.
We know this because of all the immigration issues that are happening and have been happening.
Mm.
Well, there's another productivity expert out there somewhere in the world of, 6-7 billion people. But I bet you they're not as good as Sam Tornatore is. So what I'm saying is there's a parallel. So the suspect probably wasn't as happy in Mexico, and a client that doesn't end up signing up with you is not going to be as happy with another person. They won't be as productive. They won't beat their procrastination. At least they won't be. They won't be where they could be with you. And a lot of business people are in that situation. And when we look at on the medical services, because I still am an EMT, emergency medical technician, and when I worked in the emergency room as an ER tech, time was of the essence. We had to do certain tasks because they were priorities. It's you're in CPR. You've got your airway, breathing, circulation. You take care of breathing first. You make sure that they're able to get oxygen in and out. That's the priority.
Yep.
And so, and circulation is also a priority over, seeing if they have a broken bone. So
Absolutely.
a lot of parallels there. All right. So I got this big to-do list. I look for the things that are most impactful. And how do I got a lot of impactful things, because again, I'm making this about me. Nobody else is going to get any benefit out of this except me listening to the episode. So I'm sure there's nobody out there with a big to-do list. Nobody out there is feeling overwhelmed, or nobody out there that's feeling like they're procrastinating. So we'll just keep this about Kerry. And let's say I got my to-do list and I got all these important things to do. Let's say I'm on the fire department. and we've got to answer calls. We got to do crew scheduling. We have to do fire inspections. Got all these important things to do. How do I decide between my big priorities?
Yeah, great question. Here's a little key. We always find time to do the most important thing, right? If, Kerry, you think at your list, right? And
Okay.
what I'd like you to do is either do it tonight for tomorrow or do it now for the day, or got a shift in time zones here. But ask yourself, if I had to do only one thing tomorrow that would yield the biggest results. Now, you mentioned a lot of things. And I'm not saying, the importance is always a level of, it's a scale, right? So in those things that are important, one will usually be, it has to be the most important thing. And that's something you've got to work out as far as consequences, benefits, implications, all that stuff. So, but if you went to bed and you said to yourself, tomorrow, I've only got time to do one thing, the most important thing. And if I said to you, Kerry, if you do that one thing, I'm going to pay you $10 million. Would you find the motivation? Would you clear out what you've got to clear out? Would you work out a way to do that one most important thing if I'm going to give you $10 million? You probably would,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this
Great
is
analogy. I love it.
absolutely. It's about shifting your mindset to what is that one most important thing. So yeah, you're going to have degrees of most important things, but the one that is weighted towards the most important thing is the one. But another way to add another dimension into this is ask yourself, of all of those important things, which one is the most pressing with urgency? So you can have important things that they're not urgent, like right now. You can schedule to do that. Like, you've got to put something together, you've got to write an article, something that's not time pressing. But in those important things, you will have time you'll have one at least that has some kind of time measurement or time benchmark. You might have to see a client and you know that it's at 9 o'clock. So that's the most important thing for that day. So a quick filter and the short answer is to identify, of all those important things, which one is probably the most urgent, and that becomes your number one. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Something just popped into my head, and I heard this a long time ago. And it was almost, that game Dominoes where you knock one domino over and it knocks other dominoes over. Well, that's not the game of dominoes, but how they set up dominoes. You know what I mean, right? Somebody had once said, is there something on your to-do list that if you knocked it off, if you knocked it over like a domino, that it would take out other dominoes? It would knock over other dominoes for you without you having to do those, knock those down yourself, or it would make those dominoes easier to knock
Absolutely.
over. And
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? That approach to the to-do list?
I have another saying that I love. I said, you can get up in the morning, you can be in front of the game, or you can be behind the 8 ball, right? So what you're saying is 100% true. Some things tend to either disappear or not become as important once you knock off that first domino. Well, let me ask you this. If you had a daily practice of every day getting up and doing your most important thing every day, and you set that up as a pattern, that's your life, that's your MO, and that's how you roll, how would you feel doing that every day, as an example?
Actually, I do that.
Okay.
Here's what I do. So, there's a guy, his name is Robin Sharma. You may have heard of him. And he wrote a book called The 5 a.m. Club. And I'm actually a member of the 4 a.m. Club because I get up. I'm a slow starter in the morning. I like to take my time. Can I get up and go? Yeah. Especially when I was on call or when I was on the fire department and we were sleeping at the fire station, I can be up and going 90 miles an hour, no problem. But I don't like to do that on a daily basis. So I get up at 4 I do my morning journaling because I do nighttime journaling as well as morning journaling. I do my meditation, and then I go to the gym. It's called the 5 a.m. grind, the gym class. And it's from 5 to 6, and it's a hardcore workout, amazing group of people there. And if I do that workout, that sets me up for a great day. I get home, I get showered. I feel like I've already accomplished a lot. I've journaled, I've meditated, I've got my physical exercise, all three of the benchmarks that Robin Sharma talks about in the book, The 5 a.m. Club. And I'm ready to go. And
Absolutely.
I know health-wise, when I'm consistent with that, it makes all the difference in the world. Today, I ran farther. So after the workout, I go on a run. And I quite honestly, I hate to run. I run because I need to, because otherwise I'll be 500 pounds because I like food. And today I ran farther than I ever have after a morning workout. Yesterday, I ran farther than I ever had. And I'm not making this up. It was yesterday. I was like, I surprised myself how far I went. And then I went today. I'm like, oh, normally because I have like little benchmarks for like how far, and it's a hill. So I run down the hill, come back and go back up the hill, and coming up, it's an ass kicker. And when I have like these light poles in the center median of the road that I'm running, and I'm like, okay, if I can get to that light pole, I'll kind of like slow down and kind of walk for a little bit, then I'll start running again.
Yeah.
2 days in a row. But it's that I know what it is because I was thinking about it while I was finishing the run. It's like, it's the consistency that does that. That sets me up for a great day. Now, let's take it back to work, because there's, when I say work or stuff around the house and things like that, are you saying, like, if you're a business owner, you might have to make sales calls, which most people that are in sales do not like. Teachers have to do prep for classwork, which some of them love it, some of them hate it. And so this concept that I've also heard about, eat the frog first, do the worst task.
Right.
I'm kind of torn on that, Sam. I'm kind of torn on, okay, I get the morning routine. I'm all in on that, all in. But eat the frog first.
Yeah.
Doesn't it leave a bad taste in your mouth for the rest of the day? Or is it just like, it's done, it's over, I have the sense of, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, I love Brian Tracy's work, and he wrote that book, and it's a famous book. And eat the frog first refers to the fact that this most important thing that you need to do, chances are really high, it's not something you may want to do, right? It's not something you'd like to do. In fact, if you have a preference, you probably won't do it, because it may be hard, or it requires you to have a little bit more thought, or you've got to be at your best, or you've got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to put all your energy into it. And you've got other stuff. So what he's saying by eat that frog is do the most difficult task as well. As it's important, the chances are high it's going to be a little bit more on the difficult side, right? Because, if it was easy, well, you would have done it 3 days ago.
Or 3 months ago.
Yeah. So, that's what he talks about. So in essence, it is that whether you look at it as the most difficult task, the most important task, but just get the top thing done that's, will yield the greatest results. Because as you've pointed out, once you do that at the start of your day, the rest of it is like sailing, easy. And back to your domino analogy, you will actually be better. You'll actually function better. So those tasks, all those little ones after that, you'll knock them out a lot quicker. So you'll be more efficient throughout the day. And that's what allows you to do more with less as well, right? So that's another way of looking at that. But there is one other key element here, Kerry, and I don't think it's fair to leave your viewers or your listeners with that one bit of advice, because there is a second part of this. And this is probably even harder to do, but will yield the most amount of results. Would you like to know what that is?
100%.
Okay.
Anything that yields results, I'm interested in.
Look, this is probably the one that I've been in this industry for a lot of time, right? 19 years. And I'm still evolving. I try things, I put them into my own life because, I get challenged like everybody else. It's a busy world. We get it, right? So, but the one thing that's probably generated the most results for me in recent times, in the last, probably even say last year or year and a half, and it's this. First of all, get that most important thing, right? You got that nailed, you know what it is, it's clear. The second part is to make sure that, as you've worked out, do that as practical as possible the first part of your day, right? So that you do that first before you do anything else. Now, I know that you may not do that first if businesses don't open up at 8 o'clock, you're up at 5 doing something, but at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, you make calls. But if that's your most important thing, then do it at that time. But here's the key, and this is where a lot of people mess up. You've got to guard that time. Let's say it's 1 hour or 2 hours that you've allocated to do that time. That 1 hour, let's call it 1 hour just for the sake of that discussion. You want to build an absolute fortress around that time. Like your life depends on it. And for that 1 hour, you've got to say to the world, leave me alone for that 1 hour. Do not hassle me. Do not contact me. Do not text message me. Do not knock on my door. Protect it like you're protecting your life. And what I say is you got a fortress that everyone's trying to get in, shoot arrows, get in there, drop bombs, it's all going on. You got to say, right, this is my fortress. It's protected. No one gets in this space. Now that's hard to do because we're always at a mercy of, these things and dings and dongs and beeps and buzzes. We feel this compulsion to answer everything. Now, the key is to eliminate all the distractions for that 1 hour. Now, that's hard. Easy to say, but really hard to do. And there's the opportunity. If you can discipline yourself and find ways to block out everything and give yourself that 1 hour of absolute clear space, you're gold, man. You're gold. That's where people go wrong. And I've proven this time and time with private clients. They say to me, oh, Sam, I don't have the time. I go, okay, yeah. How much time do you need? Oh, only about 2 hours. Okay, right. So let's go on let's find this 2 hours. What do you do in that 2 hours? Well, I start and then I get a phone call, or I start and I get an email. I go, isn't it obvious here? Turn your phone off. There's actually a device. You can actually turn these things off. I don't know if people know that. They don't have to be on 24/7. So anyway, I'm getting carried away, Kerry, because I'm so passionate about it. Doing those couple of disciplines have literally changed my productivity. And most importantly, I changed the productivity of my clients just by doing a couple of those really simple things. So I hope that's given you some perspective as to the next level of what you've got to do with that hour or two. Guard it like a fortress.
Yeah, that's awesome. In fact, so I have a home office, has a door that closes. Diane got me a sign and a hook for the door. The sign hangs on. I'd run up and grab it because my studio is in a different part of the house. It's an open and closed sign. And on the closed part, it has those two little, the little hand and the big hand, clock.
Yep.
So if I'm doing an interview for the show, it goes closed and I set the little hands for whenever I'm going to be available.
Perfect.
And I've used that. I haven't called it my fortress, but I like that. I think I might just put a little label on it instead of open. It's the fortress sign.
Yep.
Because that's a great way. And it's ironic because I got an email yesterday Somebody has been lagging on work for us for, I'm not kidding you, over 2 years. They were supposed to get this, the work that they were supposed to get done should have been done 2 years ago. And they got prompted on it again yesterday. And they said, I'm making this promise. I'm going to isolate myself tomorrow. I'm turning everything off and I will work on this until it's done. And I was like, okay. And here
Yeah.
you are today. I mean, it totally disconnect. I mean, there's your worlds don't even revolve around each other.
Yeah.
But it's so cool because they realized that they had to do exactly what you're recommending in order to get our work done. And this is affecting, this is a resource library that was promised to me years ago. And I've got students that have come through our training that keep going, Kerry, where is it? I'm like, I'm trying to get it done. And so I love that fortress. I love that fortress idea. All right. So let me hit you with another one. One of the things that I discovered, and I want to bounce this idea off you to see if I'm on the right track or not, because I know nobody else has this kind of problem, but in the early afternoon, like around 2 o'clock, I feel like I hit an energetic wall.
Yep.
Now, generally, because I'm home from the gym, even with a run after, showered, I'm starting to work usually around by 7 in the morning. So by about 2, and I work long days. For I take enough time off, but I work long hours. And so by 2 o'clock, I'm like, holy wow. And I know that it feels like I'm slogging through mud to get stuff done. Is this something that's common with people? These, but if I take a little nap, I get a 20-minute power nap, and technically I do 26 because I learned a 24-minute nap is perfect. I need a couple minutes to get to sleep. If I take a nap, I'm good to go for a long time. Or if I get outside and I go for a walk for 15, 20 minutes, it's that state change, that physical state changes my mental state. And I know those state changes complement each other, but what I'm curious is, you've helped over 10,000 people, dude. You are like a huge expert, way beyond my realm. Am I on the right track for either doing a nap or going out for a walk, or what things can I do when I feel like I'm slogging through mud?
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, it's very common. I mean, people in Australia have that as well, right? And, it's the 3 o'clock time. That's usually the number where people they say, I'm starting to drift off. And look, part of that, Kerry, and I've proved this for myself and I've proved this for clients as well. Part of that is some lifestyle issues as far as diet, too much caffeine. And I've proven to myself that changing your diet around, changing your caffeine intake in particular, can give you more even philosophy during the day. So you don't have those spikes, and it's got to do with the GI and a whole bunch of stuff. But, that's beyond my realm. I mean, I know the basics and it works well, but that's one element. So if you're finding that that's happening a lot, then you need to look at the causes, which is usually diet or caffeine related, right? That's usually a big one. But putting that aside, one thing I'll caution to people, knowing that there's this thing what I call prime time. So if you need to do something like whatever that 1 hour or 2 hours is, you must allocate it in your prime time. Now, if your prime time is when you're at your best, and for you, it's obviously pre that mid-afternoon. So just as a general thing, it goes without saying, but no one should ever schedule their most important prime time activity when they're not in their prime, which is the afternoon. Right? So does that make sense, just as a starting point?
It makes total sense, which is why I know my productivity in the morning can be off the charts.
Yeah.
And I know it's at the bottom of the chart. It may be off the chart, but it's off the bottom of the chart on the negative side in that that early mid-afternoon. So that makes total sense. So
Yeah.
schedule your stuff, your most important tasks during times that you know you're feeling more energy.
Absolutely, your peak prime time. So don't do anything in that time where you know you're going to suffer. So I guess what I'm saying is don't kid yourself by saying, oh, I'll do that most important task in the afternoon. You won't, because in the afternoon, it's not your prime time, it's your less than prime time, right? So, but anyway, if you do have that situation, then this is something I heard of a long time ago. Works very well. You hit the nail on the head. You've got to, it's not always practical, but you've got to listen to your body, right? If you're dropped down in energy, you can keep going in that state and you're not going to be productive. You're not going to be efficient. You are much better off taking time out. Just say, okay, stop, for 5 minutes here, I need to, even if you can, rest your eyes for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. If you can have a little 5-minute power nap, you are so much more better off. Go for a little bit of a walk, do something, get on the ground, do 10 push-ups, whatever's going to give you that jolt. So to give you that jolt of energy, and then when you're refreshed and stimulated, you can keep going. You'd be surprised. A lot of the times we feel like we're tired. We think, oh man, I just can't cope. But you know what? You hop on the floor, you do some little quick exercise, or you go for a brisk walk. You'd be surprised how, you can wake up and feel better. I mean, so many times I've been at seminars and, people have got this pretty down pat. I've been at seminars this late in the afternoon, and even myself, I try to pay attention, but I'm thinking, man, I'm really sort of suffering here. And then the guy will say, okay, everybody get up and do, 10 jumping jacks or whatever, high fives, say hello to the person next to you, slap each other around, jump up and down, and you stop and you think, oh man, I'm really energized.
Yeah.
Right. So it's got to do with our physical state. So I think that's probably the key thing. But I would say for people, two things is to look at the causes of what that is, or where the drops are, but also be aware to never schedule anything in that prime time. That's really important because it's not prime time.
That makes total sense. Let me ask you about this. Somebody had suggested to me once about working in 90-minute blocks of time.
Yep.
And then building in a half hour before the next 90-minute block. So it's kind of 2-hour blocks, but 90 minutes of work, 30 minutes of free time. And in that 30 minutes, it wasn't that you were going to use that as some of it was going to be a break time. So to get up, move around, change your physical state, change your mental state, get back in it, clear your working memory. And the other thing that half hour did is they called it ERT, emergency response time, because emergencies come up. Somebody needs something. And the reality is, I found that most of the time, an emergency does not have to be handled that second. If somebody stops breathing, if somebody, falls and is bleeding, okay, gotcha there. Got to take care of that right away. But most of the other quote unquote emergencies could wait until that half hour, and then you handle those in that half hour.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on this working in blocks of time concept? Does that work?
Yeah, look, yes and no. You've got to be very careful with this. And the research that more recent research has showed that 26 minutes is a good block. Now, let me explain. For whether it's 26 minutes, 90 minutes, it doesn't really matter. There is one thing that's really important when you have the break. So let's say you say to yourself, I've got 2 hours to do this task. And, in that 2 hours, I'm going to allocate that 2 hours. I'm going to guard my fortress, and I'm going to do that for 2 hours. Now, it's okay to have a break in that 2 hours. Now, whether it be after half an hour, 26 minutes, one of the research that I read recently says 26 minutes and then have a 4-minute rest and then have another 26 minutes, 4-minute rest another 26 minutes, something like that, right? So, but Kerry, it doesn't really matter whether it's 26, 30 minutes, 90 minutes, and you have a break. But here's the key. When you have the break, you do not shift to something else. You just have that break to just be still or absorb, get up, walk around, loosen up. Don't do another task. That's the danger. Do not think, oh, I got 5 minutes, I'm going to check my phone, all the rest of it, because this is what happens. And this is something that's just proven time and time again. And you would know this from your neuroscience background. When you're at a task and you're here, your focus level, becomes at its peak. So you've been doing this for half an hour as an example. The minute you then go to something else, you got context switching. And every time you do context switching, your brain drops. You think, okay, I'm not at that focus now. I'm going to refocus to something else. It drops. You start that second thing and you need to build up that focus again. Then you go back to your other one. It drops and you got to build up again. So I can't remember the exact statistic. I think you lose about 25% every time you drop off. But here's the thing. It's that rebuilding up to the peak focus again, the drop and the rebuilding. You do that several times over a 90-minute break. There's a lot of wasted efficiency. You're not at your peak. So that's where people go wrong. So whether the breaks after 26 minutes, half an hour, 3/4, have that break, but have it for you to just relax, get present, think about what you've done, get up, be physical. I definitely agree with that. Walk around, do something, but don't do something else. Don't start to get involved in another mental activity that's going to context switch, because the context switching is downtime. And then you've got to get back up to that peak focus. You do that several times, you've just blown a lot of inefficiency. You just blown a lot of efficiency just by doing that. So the key thing I'm saying to people, and this is a really big thing, have your break, absolutely, but don't switch to another mental task on that break. That is a definite no-go zone. You start doing that, man, you just lost your focus. But you can maintain that focus if you just still keep with that task, but give yourself a break from that task with doing some relaxation, walking around, and just physically feeling a bit of relief. And that's important because then your brain is reset, ready to go again.
It makes total sense. Makes total sense, because I'm a horrible multitasker. I used to, it's funny, in a police car, and this happens in the fire engine as well, not to as much of a degree because you got other people. A lot of cops work by themselves, and there's so much going on. If you're scanning more than your primary frequency, you got a lot of stuff going on because you're listening to different frequencies, different parts of town, different incidents, different dispatchers' voices, different cops' voices. You've got your computer in your car dinging at you. You're looking around all the time for, bad guys and bad girls and dangers to you, and then your phone goes off and a computer message comes in and there's something else on the radio. You're constantly being pulled in multiple directions.
Yep.
And there's some things that and oh, by the way, when you're driving down the street, trying not to crash.
Yeah.
And, it's funny because they just had results come out from a kind of a review of traffic collisions. Police department by far had the greatest number of collisions per employee, like a per capita rating.
Yes.
And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, well, that hasn't changed. I was a cop for 30 years. It was the same before I started.
Yeah.
So for the last easy 35, 40 years, I know for a fact that's been the case. But there's two things. Number one, nobody else drives as many miles as the cops do. You cannot compare cops and firefighters for crashes because the firefighters don't drive nearly as many miles.
Yeah, I understand.
And they're not, no one else. If you got somebody who works for the water department. They're driving from one water meter to another water meter, getting out, reading the meter, getting back in, driving to another. They don't have everything else going on. Nobody's looking to shoot at them. Nobody's looking to harm them. Nobody's looking to run away from them. The tasks are totally different. So the environment's totally different. So when you talk about multitasking and how our brains work, it all makes total sense. Now, I got another question for you.
Can I just say one thing on the multitasking before you ask that question?
Yeah, please do.
Stanford University, I'm sure you're familiar with that university, right?
I've heard
They
it
actually,
twice.
there's a series of research that they've done that multitasking is so ineffective. Not only is it ineffective, it actually produces brain damage because of the constant context switching. So, it's probably the one thing I'm really passionate about is to tell people, do not multitask. Stop it, right? It'll drive you nuts. Because you know yourself, how many times have you done something, you're working on something, you get distracted, you go to a phone call or a text message, you go back to that thing, I guarantee you say to yourself, now, where was I? Now, when you say that, where was I? Guess what? Your brain's just dropped and back up to refocus time. Every time you do that, now, where was I? Now, where was I? Not only do you not function, you lose your train of thought. Can you imagine trying to be creative with an article or a video or some concept that you're writing a book and you're like, where was I? Where was I? Where was I? Man, just flow and be in the flow. Don't stop the flow. When you stop the flow, you're not at your best. That's how I explain multitasking, So I just wanted to emphasize that because, it's a big thing. The research is really obvious. When I hear people multitasking or spinning too many plates, I go, man, focus on one thing at a time.
That is so awesome. And so you're saying multitasking causes brain damage. I guess my ex-wife was correct. She swore up and down I was brain damaged.
There you go.
All right. So, all right.
So what was your
So
question?
let's
Sorry.
shift gears. Let's shift gears just a little bit on that then, because I'm going to share something with you. And I got a ballpoint pen in my hand. Do you have a pen handy?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to teach you. And so you know that at IDEA, we teach people how to teach. And all of our courses are done using brain-centric design, BCD. And we teach, we actually certify instructors to be brain-centric instructional designers. And so what I'm going to show you is a BCD brain break. So we teach instructors to do this in the classroom because, so here's a quick example. If you were to take a Post-it note and you were to say, this is your brain, and we're going to discuss the amount of your brain that's dedicated to working memory, kind of like the RAM in a computer, the random access memory, the working memory. I'm going to take that little piece, and that piece is actually too big. That's your working memory compared to the rest of your brain. Tiny amount. So what we do is we teach you as an instructor to give your students periodic and regular brain breaks, because what that does is it clears the RAM, it keeps them out of cognitive overload, which sends them into survival state, because cognitive overload is already, that's a negative thing. If it's a negative feeling, a negative experience, a negative emotion, that's survival state. You're in survival state, PFC, shut off, can't process information. Brain just doesn't allow it. So here's a quick brain break, and you can do this. And so what I want you to do is let's just start with your right hand. So hold the pen in your right hand. And what I want you to do is I'm going to have you flip it. And all I want it to do, the pen's going to flip 180 degrees. Don't go for 360, just a 180 degree flip and catch it. Whoop. There we go. And do it again. And do it again. And do it again. Now try for 360. You're doing this with your right hand. So try for a full rotation. And if you drop it, it's okay, no big deal. All right, now take the pen in your left hand. 180, just one 180 flip. Go ahead and flip it. And flip it again. And do it again. See, that's okay. Everybody drops a pin. Now go for a 360 flip, a full circle. Oh, I got 2 out of that one. Got a couple out of that. Now what I want you to do is I want you to flip the pin using your left hand. Throw it in the air with your left hand, but I want you to catch it with your right. So here we go. And then back to your left. And then back to your right. I dropped it. And that's okay. So here's the cool thing. That took about a minute.
Yep.
We just cleared the working memory. And now, because you had to focus, you had to concentrate on that task, you are now ready to focus and concentrate on whatever else. You talked about raising that attention level back up. You just did it. You cleared the working memory, keeps you out of cognitive overload. And the cool thing is you just built new neural pathways in your brain. You actually became smarter by flipping a pin.
Yeah, love it. That's great.
That's one brain break. I've got boatloads of brain breaks that we're going to share periodically. In fact, you can hop on LinkedIn, our Facebook page, our Instagram and YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, The Idea YouTube channel, and you're going to see periodic shorts with different brain breaks and different instructional tips like that. So if you're a teacher, K through 12, you're a trainer in law enforcement, fire, medical services, flight attendants, whatever you're doing, if you're a parent, wouldn't it be kind of cool to know how to help your kid with the homework without tearing your hair out or them banging their head on the desk?
Yeah, I love it.
We teach all sorts of stuff. So anyway, it just goes right along with the idea of all this productivity and everything else.
Yeah, the resetting, I love it.
We're coming up on a long time here, but there's one more question I want to ask you. Well, there's in the area. There's actually like 2 or 3 quick ones, but you help people that are paralyzed by procrastination.
Yeah.
Can you give me 1 or 2 ideas on how to get past procrastination? Because I think that affects a lot of people.
Absolutely. Happy to. It's important to note that not everybody is tarred with the same brush when it comes to procrastination. Everyone's reasons for procrastination are different and very unique. And I'm happy to discuss this with anybody, any viewers. You're welcome to reach out to me to discuss. It's a very unique area where everybody can be quite specific rather than general. Having said that, there are generally 4 reasons that are grouped as to why people procrastinate. So to answer your question, the first one is that chances are really high the thing you procrastinate about is something you don't really want to do because doesn't really excite you. It's not consistent with your values. See, Kerry, we all have a set of values that we live by, things that are important to us, things that we cherish, things that we value them. That's the short way of describing a value. And anytime we do something consistent with our values, it's what we want to do. We see joy, we see an alignment, we see motivation, we see with our vision. We don't procrastinate about those things. I don't know if anyone's really noticed, right? But when we're out of alignment, when we're not consistent with our values, we're not consistent with what we want to do, that's where procrastination starts to happen. So I see this with a lot of people that have jobs. I'm trying to help, their boss is saying, can you help me motivate my staff? I go, you know what? They don't really want to do this job. You've got a square peg in a round hole. Right? So procrastination often starts with really being aware, is this thing that I want to do something I really want to do? And the best example of this, and this is what happened to me personally, when I left school, I went to uni, I got a Bachelor of Commerce. It's not something I really wanted to do. I didn't really want to learn about accounting. I mean, that's just not me, but I did it. Now, my parents See, a lot of people, we're governed by what other people think we should do. We have influences, it's not really your goal. What I say to people is this your goal? If it's your goal, then chances are really high you're not going to procrastinate about it. When it's someone else's goal or someone imposes on you or someone expects you to, that's a danger area. So for me, I didn't want to be an accountant, but I procrastinated for ages. I did my degree, but man, it was like extracting teeth, right? So now, no one's got to motivate me to read a book about time management or personal development or researching great speakers. Man, no problem. I'm not tired, never. So the first thing is to really create an awareness of, is it really my goal? And the second thing is probably the next step is that people set goals or they do things that are just too big, right? Too large. And when it's overwhelming, oh man, it's so easy to say, whoa, a bit too much. I'm just going to put that off for a little bit, right? Whereas just break it down. Set your goals a little bit smaller. Not saying don't have big dreams. I'm just saying take it steps at a time. Do something that's manageable, small, you can do, you can achieve, you can reward yourself for, you can build some momentum, you can feel good about it. The next thing will create a bit of a pattern, so you have some energy and you start working towards that. My favorite saying, another one of my favorite sayings, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So whatever it is you procrastinate about, if it's a big task, chunk it down to small action steps that you can take straight away. And that's consistent with having a plan. That's another reason, Kerry. I mean, people don't have a plan as to what they're going to do. And, once you've got a structure, just simply saying what you're going to do tomorrow, what you're going to do the day after, have a plan, you're least likely to procrastinate. And, so that's a couple of the key things at a nutshell. At a deeper level from that, we procrastinate because we've got sort of, I call it fears, but these mental barriers, I'm not good enough, or perhaps I'm going to fail. And that's a whole different can of worms, because often our fears, they're just false evidence appearing real. They're just your perception about that situation. And chances are someone else in that situation would say, I don't know what you're talking about, Kerry. You're brilliant at that. Or that's not a problem, right? It's just you're thinking that way. So that's what I call mental barriers. And that's another topic there. So I hope those couple of things have just helped when it comes to general procrastination. That's the one I think is the biggest thing I see is people out of alignment first. You have to motivate a kid to play a video game.
Excellent question.
Right.
Question. I just want to recap something that you said because I love that you said this. What is fear? Give us the FEAR again.
Yeah, false evidence appearing real. Something you're telling yourself, and this is just mind games, you've got a loop going on, or you've been conditioned to think something, or you've got this false sense of information, but that appears real to you, that creates fear. Do you know that science, doctors have proven time and time, there is only one fear that we are born with, only one, and that is the fear of falling, right? I've seen videos where you take a baby and delicately, of course, and you sort of pretend to drop it and the baby goes, right? That's the only fear. Every other fear is conditioned. Every other fear we've developed a set of ideas, society, people, influences, phobias. It's just everything has been conditioned, right? If a fear is real, it will apply to everybody all of the time, right? If it doesn't, then the chances are that fear's in your head only. And you've got to just work out, this is the big thing I say with fears is, where is the evidence to suggest that is a consistent fear all of the time for everybody else on the planet that applies to you? Show me that evidence. And when people can't find that evidence, that's called disputing. and you dispute your fears, and all of a sudden you start to weaken them, and you doubt your fears, and then you start, you know what? Maybe it's not applicable all the time. Anyway, I've digressed there, Kerry. I get caught up in the whole fear thing as well. So, because it is in our minds, and look, I suffer from it for myself. But you know what I do? And action cures fears all the time. Take a step, take a leap, take a leap. Find out for yourself. At worst case, you'll learn something. Best case, you'll conquer that fear, and you go, holy. Hey, all right, that was no problem. What's the next thing?
That's awesome. Yeah, action conquers fears. 100%. 100%. Sam, I'm so grateful to you. I know this hasn't helped anybody else because nobody else suffers from procrastination or overwhelm or too many things to do. I get that I'm the only one, but you've helped me, and so I'm grateful for that, brother. And
my pleasure, Kerry.
let
My
me ask
pleasure.
you this: if there's somebody else out there in this planet of 6 or 7 billion people who happens to want to talk to you because they realize Sam is the man to talk to about this stuff and he can help me, how can people stay in touch with you?
Quite easy. I mean, look, if people have got more questions than answers, if anything I've said resonates with them, they feel like their situation is more unique, then they're most certainly welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to schedule a consultation, no fee, just so I can understand the situation. I may be able to offer some insights and ideas that they haven't heard before, some new ideas, new insights, or I might be able to provide them a breakthrough. So the simple thing, Kerry, is to hop on my website. There's a form there for a consultation, and it's www.samtornatore.com. Just .com, no .au. And look, for simplicity, because I know my name's quite complex, I've got another website. It's just simply called www.bookwithsam.com. It goes to the same place. It's just a lot easier to remember, and people are welcome to just fill in a form there and tell me what your biggest challenge is, and I'll see if I can help you with it.
That's awesome. Thank you for offering that, and for our listeners, that website, you've seen it pop up. If you're watching this, you've seen it pop up on the screen several times, and if you're listening to this, you can look in the show notes. If nothing else, hop over to our YouTube channel or the LinkedIn page. In the show notes, Sam's, both of those websites will be in there, so you can get a hold of Sam. And folks, if you're even remotely thinking about doing this, get a hold of Sam, because he's a magician. He truly is. It's amazing the magic he can work with you. I've seen him help so many people, and he's just fun to be around anyway. So Sam, I'm talking about you like you're not even here. So, which technically you're not. You're in Australia, but
That's it.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up this show?
Yeah, one last thought, Kerry, and this is probably a bit of once again, another left field sort of area. This is an area that I see a lot of people struggle with, and it's another easy fix. I mean, I've spent an entire career, because I'm in the area of time management and productivity, you would expect that I'm not going to give you 30 minutes of information that I can give you in 5, right? I'm not going to give you a 10-point plan when I can give you 1 point, right? So I've come up with a lot of things that I have found are the simplest things. And some of the things I've shared on this call with you has been some of those things. If I can leave the viewers with one other thing, and this is that somewhere in our day, remember, we've only got 24 hours, so we've got to make space. Somewhere in our day, there are things that are either not important and not urgent. So there are things, getting back to your to-do list, I can guarantee you, if we went through that to-do list, there'll be things there that fit that description. Well, not really that important and not really that urgent. So you know what you do with those two things? Or one thing or a couple of things that fits that description? You eliminate them.
That's scary, brother. That is scary.
You eliminate them. You don't need it. Oh, I know people think, oh, hang on a sec, I need all that. You don't really. If you are serious about productivity, you got to start eliminating some things out of your life that really do not serve you. Okay, that's another discussion. But if they don't serve you, if they're not urgent, they're not important, why have them, right? Because this is one of my other favorite things people say to me is, Sam, people say to me all the time, Kerry, I don't have time. I don't have time. And I say to them, okay, how much time do you have to watch TV at night time? Oh, but that's different. Well, hang on a sec. If you were to slice out half an hour of TV time, just hypothetically, you would have half an hour extra a day. Right? So anyway, I just want to close on that. I challenge people to think about what's in their day that doesn't serve them, that they don't need, and be bold enough to just try it for a while. Take it out of the picture. And I'll tell you what, you won't miss it.
And that's 2.5 hours a week.
There you go.
Maybe if you just got up 30 minutes sooner.
Yeah, that's another one too,
Just saying.
It's been a real pleasure, Kerry. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Always. And you always bring such insight. I joke that I'm the Robin Hood of public safety, that I rob from people like you your wisdom and give it to everybody else that needs it, which is the first responders and the school teachers and the flight attendants. So for anybody listening, you need to get a hold of Sam. Bookwithsam.com. Absolutely get a hold of him, soak in his wisdom. And if nothing else, he's got a cool accent. And that always works for me. So, Sam, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here. Truly honored, as always, to spend any time with you. And again, thanks for sharing your insights with me. Nobody else is going to learn from it, but I have. And that's what's important for this episode. So
my pleasure, Kerry. My pleasure. And I will say, man, you're a man of brilliance as well. I mean, I really love following your stuff. Your stuff with the neuroscience, your executive mind, just the way you just explain that is so on point. You've helped me, and I wanted to tell you that, we're all learning from other people, and I learn a lot from you. So thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here as well. So
I'm honored. Thank you so much for that. In fact, I'm a little bit choked up right now. So, all right. Thank you. So,
my pleasure.
Listeners, until next time, check us out at theidea.world. You can click on whatever link resonates with you. If you're a teacher or a police officer, firefighter, medical services, whatever realm you're in, we have some things that are going to be able to help you. Check out our training classes, because they are different than really pretty much anything else out there. So check us out at theidea.world. And until next time, as always, please stay safe. I hope you found a lot of great value in this episode of the De-Escalation Conversations podcast. Please be sure to go to our website, theidea.world, THEIDEA.world. On that website, just click on the link that resonates with you most. If you're a K-12 educator, if you're a firefighter, medical services, law enforcement, flight attendants, whatever industry you're in, we have specialized training for you. So check that training out, because literally it can save your life, it can save your relationship, it can save your career. So check out theidea.world. I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. This is Kerry Mensior, and thanks for watching this episode of the De-Escalation Conversations podcast. I hope you got some great insights that you can use right away. But don't stop here. Click that video link above and keep the momentum going with another powerful episode. And hey, if you haven't already, please hit that like button and the subscribe bell so you never miss an episode. New strategies, new stories, and new ways to connect coming your way every week. See you in the next episode.